Hello, and welcome to Pianime Recap. The plot begins on a gloomy day, with our protagonist, Ray, attending a funeral. He has a terrifying memory of people dying around him and ice erupting from his body. People nearby noticed the surge of power and worried if he was overheating. We meet Ray again later when he enters his new academy and saves a girl from collapsing. A pair of females nearby gossip about how they heard a new student will be arriving late that day and how he is not descended from an aristocrat or a sorcerer, but rather from a common household. Everyone frowns on this fact. And the girl he saved is disgusted because he touched a regular person. A boy named Albert then addresses Ray by name, explaining that only nobles and descendants of sorcerers are permitted to attend his school. Ordinary people like Ray have no place here. Albert tries to fight Ray when he says there are many things he wants to learn at the academy. However, their conversation is interrupted by Amelia, a member of one of the top 3 noble families. Albert continues to deny Ray and walks away, while Amelia cheerfully presents herself to our protagonist. She mentions how Ray is the first average person to attend the academy, implying he must have impressed someone with his talent. During the entrance ceremony, it is stated that the Arnold Academy of Sorcery is one of the finest schools in the world, and that everyone who attends has been recognized for their Italians as sorcerers. However, the speaker cautions them not to be arrogant and encourages them to continue working hard to better themselves. Many sorcerers with natural talent and the ideal environment eventually lose heart and allow their abilities to deteriorate. Instead, she instructs them to work hard and become frustrated sorcerers. This speaker introduces herself as Principal Abby and expresses gratitude to everyone present. Amelia, the incoming class representative, explains that this is just the beginning. Later, as Ray is introduced as the class's final student, students gossip about how everyone is talking about him. He tells everyone that he understands how unusual it is for an ordinary person to attend their school, but that he intends to give his all as a sorcerer. His speech elicits a mixed response, and the instructor, Miss Gray, requests that he introduce himself to each student individually. Amelia later wishes him luck, and everyone is taken aback that one of the top 3 families is interested in him. Albert is visibly upset, but Ray pays no attention to him. He remembers a destroyed town, but he comes to when he has to stop a piece of chalk from hitting him. Miss Gray requests that he pay attention before explaining sorcerer ranks. She summons Rose, who informs her that there are 5 ranks: bronze, silver, gold, platinum, and grand, which is considered sacred. There are only 7 grand sorcerers at any given time. These 7 have mastered the very essence of sorcery and are the pinnacle of sorcery to which all sorcerers aspire. Only a few details about the existence of these 7 greatest sorcerers are known to the general public. Principal Abby, also known as the Blaze Sorcerer, is one of them. The spellbinding sorcerer Carol, the most well-known of the 7 grand, comes next. Finally, the Iceblade Sorcerer is regarded as the Far East War's hero. The Iceblade Sorcerer vanished after bringing the Far East War to an end. There is no more information on the other 7 greatest sorcerers. Miss Gray emphasizes that the ultimate goal for all of her students should be to attain the rank of Grand Sorcerer. Albert, one of the Great 7, stands up to point out how ridiculous that is. Given that one of the students in class is ordinary and would be unable to achieve that goal, the other students agree. But Miss Gray points out that everyone at the school has passed the required exam as well as an in-person interview. Their background is irrelevant, and they have all earned their place there. Ms. Gray then has them practice the fundamentals of sorcery, explaining that it is essential for everyone, including the 7 greatest sorcerers. She then summons Amelia to explain that sorcery refers to the art of reconstructing prima materia, their world's primary building block of matter. Miss Gray shows how you must first encode prima materia, or convert it into code. Decoding must then be used to remove any excess. The data is then reorganized and moved to the processing stage. In this stage, data can be added or removed, and everything is manifested at the end. Those are the fundamentals. She goes on to say that anything they create can be undone. Furthermore, prima materia has no restrictions on what it can reconstruct. Everything is dependent on the sorcerer's own abilities. Sorcery is primarily the art of creating matter, which is classified into 4 types: liquids, solids, gases, and plasma. Anything other than those 4 is referred to as a phenomenon. A student then wonders if Miss Gray used anti-material coat to erase the earlier ice flower, but the instructor explains that it wasn't, and there is no such thing as an anti-material sorcerer. It's then time for some practice, and Amelia shows off her skills by making her own ice flower. Of course, everyone admires her, but everyone turns to look at Ray, who appears to be struggling. Everyone makes fun of him. Albert, however, takes it a step further because he is enraged by Ray. He is a nobleman who refuses to recognize the existence of a talentless withered wizard. Ray then walks down the hall, admiring the building's construction. He notices the girl who inquired about antimatter earlier walk into a room, and follows her to discover that she is conducting additional research on the subject. She introduces herself as Elisa and later explains that her role model is Dr. Ainsworth. Ray is aware of the doctor's research on the advanced subject she mentioned in class, and Elisa expresses a desire to be just like her. Elisa is surprised to learn that Ray is aware of her existence, and he expresses his undying love for Dr. Ainsworth. Elisa is overjoyed because she has never met another of her fans before, but she apologizes for getting carried away. Ray then inquires as to why she covers herself when she has such lovely hair, and she inquires as to whether he thinks her ears are unusual. Ray recognizes her as a half-elf and expresses his admiration for her ears. She has been mocked her entire life, but Ray tells her she is beautiful. She is flattered by his words, and Elisa remarks on how mature he appears. It's as if he's not the same age as her, and he admits that he gets it a lot when the two part ways, and Ray goes to see someone named Evy Armstrong. Ray thanks Evy for the invitation, which Evy has been anticipating. Evy claims that he couldn't care less about Ray being ordinary and is only interested in how much muscle mass he has. Ray later goes for a run and apologizes for running past a girl. He is surprised to learn that the girl recognizes him, and she explains that it is because he is the Academy's first ordinary. She introduces herself as Rebecca and claims Ray is becoming well known for this. Ray reveals to Evy about his encounter that Rebecca is from one of the top 3 noble families. Ray is completely unaware because he grew up in the country and knows nothing about nobility. According to Evy, the top 3 noble families are just as powerful as the royal family and have sway over everything in the country. Amelia is also a member of one, and Evy explains that she has impeccable integrity, high morals, and first-rate sorcerer abilities. Ray leaves to see the instructor who needs to see him, but he encounters a girl who accuses him of being careless. Ray doesn't think he's to blame, but he apologizes anyway, and the girl recognizes him as the ordinary. The girl is pleased to hear Ray compliment her pigtails, and she introduces herself as Clara Cleveland, the girl of transcendent, raging cuteness. She is disappointed to learn that Ray has never heard of her surname, but another compliment soon wins her back. She must hurry away because she is in a hurry, and Ray meets with Principal Abby. He addresses her as Colonel, but she stops him and reminds him that they both retired from the military. She requests to be called Abby, and the two laugh as they recall their shared history. After that, Ray and Albert are set to spar with wooden swords, and the instructor warns them that if things get too dangerous, he will stop them. Students watching prepare to see Ray get beaten up as they mock him as the Withered Wizard. Evy introduces himself to Amelia and explains that Albert gave him the derogatory nickname. Ray's new friends are concerned for his safety, while Albert considers how disgusted he is by someone who can't even use sorcery. Albert starts the fight by declaring that Ray has no right to stand on the same level as him, but Ray easily avoids Albert's attack. Everyone is taken aback, and Albert launches another attack. Ray, on the other hand, destroys Albert's sword with a single slight movement. Principal Abby looks on, pleased to see him enjoying himself as a student, and refers to him as Ray White, the Iceblade Sorcerer. This concludes the first episode. Overall, the story has been great so far, and I am looking forward to the next episode. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. We will bring you another recap for the second episode. The episode starts off very misleading, and we learn that Ray is joining 2 clubs at once. The Environmental Research Club is the first one he joins. That is, they explore forests, rivers, and even glacier regions. They are known as hunters. Members discuss Ray's appearance amongst themselves, because a weak body or mind will be unable to keep up. Ray's clothes are removed by the club's leader for evaluation. All except his roommate Evy are taken aback by his size. Ray comments on the leader's keen insight when the leader asks if he has a hunter's license. This has the members chattering about his gold hunter license along with his bulk, which leads to Ray's acceptance into the club. He then goes to a club that is mostly made up of women. He states that he is interested in plants that can grow in the most inhospitable environments. Rebecca has no objections to him joining. Dina Sarah, on the other hand, objects, claiming that it's obvious he's only joining to get closer to her. The other girls are concerned about letting a guy into the flower garden. As a result, Rebecca delegated his application to Dina for review. She has him prepare a space provided to them for a new garden. giving him only 1 week to complete the task, which must be completed entirely by himself. We watch as he spends 2 days clearing weeds and repairing flower plots while his friends look on. During the process, Rebecca stops by to give him a sandwich to eat. They look down before hearing the clashing of swords. Rebecca informs Ray that the magic chevalier will be arriving soon. This is a competition to find the most powerful magical sword fighter. When asked if he planned to participate, he said he'd think about it. She then looks at his muscles and asks if she can touch them. He allows it, and she admires his biceps because she's never touched a man's muscles before. Wanda and her followers observe from a nearby window. On day 4, the new garden is completed and ready for flower planting. This astounds the club's members. Dina has no choice but to say that he doesn't pass. The group then begins to plant flowers in the garden. Ray reflects on his conversation with Principal Abby as the sun sets. She informs him that the Empire's spies have infiltrated the kingdom. There's a chance the Academy was also infiltrated, and she wants Ray to let her know if he discovers anything. We also learned that the state of affairs within the kingdom is a mess, and Abby would prefer that the matter be resolved in private if at all possible. Ray notices Clarice crouching at the side of the path. When he speaks to her, she is taken aback. Clarice tells him she was watching pill bugs and admits that, unlike others, she enjoys insects. Ray compliments her and mentions that he enjoys insects as well. He considers it an honor to be her friend, which surprises Clarice and makes her happy to finally have a friend. The next day, we learn about the 7 derivations of sorcery, which Miss Gray asks Ray to explain. The 7 derivations are quick, remote, chain, delay, material shift, extensive chain. The class is taken aback, while Albert is disgusted. Miss Gray concludes the class by informing them that the practical exercise will take place in the Kafka forest. Everyone begins to form groups of 4, leaving Ray alone until Evy joins him, at which point Ray invites Elisa to join them. She is hesitant because she believes she will only impede their progress. Ray puts his hand under her chin and forces her to look at him. He persuades her to join them while his face is close to hers. When Rose asks if there is still an open spot, Ray says it has always been hers. The class is stunned, and Albert is displaying obvious hostility. We then move to the forest, where the groups are briefed on the upcoming drill. They must visit as many checkpoints as possible and arrive at the center within 24 hours. Any points collected after the time limit will not be added to the total. As the signal to begin is given, everyone arrives at their starting points, and Ray's group works out their positions. Ray's group is wandering through the forest when they come across a large bug, which Ray slices in half with ease, surprising his group. They continue on and discover a stamp. We then come across other groups searching the forest. When we see Clarice, she is admiring a massive bug while the others are terrified. As night falls and Ray's group sets up camp, Rose appears to be suspicious of Ray's backwoods cover. Ray stays up to keep watch and thinks about his master. We see a flashback of his master telling him that she will not tell him to keep his identity hidden forever, that his situation is quite unique, and that if he wants to live a normal life, he should keep his identity hidden. But if he finds friends he can completely trust. Ray mulls over what to do. Ray's group hears a scream the next day while searching the forest. Ray goes ahead of them to investigate. It turns out that Albert's group is in trouble. Albert wonders how Ray can move so quickly that he takes it down in a single blow. Ray offers him a hand, which he declines. Ray's group catches up and assists in freeing the others. A mysterious figure emerges from the shadows to resurrect the monster. If you enjoy the video, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. We will bring you another recap. Hello, and welcome to Pianime Recap. As Ray is fighting the monster, he finds it to be unusually sturdy. Albert's group continues to watch while the 3 of them are getting unstuck. Meanwhile, Clarice's group is not far off when Clarice hears the howl. As she is checking it out, she remains hidden behind some tree watching the fight. Ray is about to use some of his hidden power, when his friends step in to give him a hand. This gives Ray an opening to cut the monster in half. While Ray wonders what was with that monster, his friends compliment him. Clarice is amazed to have seen how strong Ray was. As his group is talking, one of Albert's members mentions that Ray may not be a wizard after all. This only angers Albert and he tells his group to head out. Then Ray's group collects the final stamp, as Elisa is being carried by Ray. As they talk, Amelia jumps onto Ray's back as well and starts playing with Elisa. We then transition to Ray's group having received the highest score. Clarice is the only one to be seen clapping with enthusiasm, which comes to a stop when she notices the others looking at her in disdain. Wanda and her two friends agree that it was only because of Amelia that Ray was up there at all. Amelia comments that it's typical of nobles to be like that and complains under her breath. Ray is happy that his friends care about him as they do. It has been 2 months since Ray had gone to the academy. Lydia is waiting impatiently at a window. Her maid, Carla, converses with her about Ray. As they are talking, Carla notices him coming and invites him in. After Lydia and Ray greet each other, they take a seat and begin to chat. Lydia expects it to take 5 years or so for him to be able to use his ability fully. Yet it appears using it is considered to be strictly forbidden. Lydia tells him it is, but if he ever felt that it was absolutely needed, he would have to make the call. She also mentions that she had passed the mantle of Iceblade Sorcerer over to him. She then proceeds to the matter in which he was called to come over. It regards a rumor spreading among sorcery researchers. She says she wouldn't bother with some petty rumors, but engram was a whole other matter. Lydia begins to talk about sorcery research and how she is researching the brain instead of sorcery itself. Announcing the twofold theory triggered a new movement. The part of the brain where memories of sorcery are stored is engram. Then people who'd do anything to get what they want to appear. Instead of using sorcery to analyze the brain, these people rummage around inside a sorcerer's brains. They have no issue about crossing the line of humanity and they call themselves a eugenics. They had invited Lydia to join and according to Carol, they have already begun reaching out to other prominent sorcerers. Having finished that conversation they go outside for a walk. While reminiscing about the past, Lydia brings up the question about Ray making some friends. He tells her a bit about them and she tells them to invite them to come next time as she wants to meet those that got his smile to soften up. Then they discuss the upcoming Magic Chevalier. Lydia had won the event 4 times and believes that Ray could do the same if he enters. Ray says that he would rather remain in the background. A reason being his recuperation, but also to cheer his friends on. She then gives Ray a small book she believes would be of use to him. Back at the academy, Ray is out running. As he passes by Elisa on her way out, he stops and talks with her. Ray ends up asking if it would be all right for him to join her as well. Having agreed, Ray got changed and met back up with her as she had also gotten changed while waiting. Having arrived at the library, Elisa reads one of Ainsworth's books, while Ray is reading a novel about love. Given that he doesn't know much about emotions, he is drawn to learn about them. After leaving the library, they are spotted by Clarice. She finds it hard to approach and tries to encourage herself. Having noticed her, the two walk over and Ray speaks to Clarice. He proceeds to invite her to have lunch with them. As they are sitting at the table, Ray introduces them to each other with sweet words about them. Neither of them has done this sort of thing before. As they eat, the two girls begin to become more comfortable around each other. After lunch, the two of them separate from Ray and walk off together. As Ray turns in the opposite direction, he notices Amelia having just exited a carriage. While she turns away from watching the carriage leave, she takes notice of him. While they are talking, she becomes jealous that he had spent time with 2 other girls. She asks him to accompany her somewhere as well. They went to a clothing store together and she puts on a fashion show for him and he compliments her. As they are talking through the changing room curtain, Amelia is scared by a spider and rushes out into Ray. She suddenly realizes that she's barely clothed and rushes back in with embarrassment. Ray apologizes and Amelia tells him it wasn't an issue. We then transition to Miss Gray talking with Ray. She tells him he doesn't need to be so formal as it wasn't the military. She asks him about how he is finding the life of a student to be. He gives his response and then asks if something had happened. Miss Gray simply states that she was worried as he was the first ordinary since the inception of the academy. She was concerned that the noble students were causing him grief. Miss Gray apologizes that she is aware of it and currently can't do anything about it. She's aware that even though several years have passed since she became a teacher, she had still been trying to be a sorcery researcher. She wishes she had done more as a teacher than being an aloof researcher. The conversation soon comes to an end with her telling him to come to her if he was having any problems. Meanwhile, back in Kafka Forest, it appears that Albert had not returned to school after the day Ray saved their group. It looks like he has been doing some kind of training in order to beat Ray. As Albert is yelling out into the night, a cloaked figure can be seen watching him from above with a smirk. This concludes the first episode. Overall, the story has been great so far. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. We will bring you another recap. Hello, and welcome to Pianime Recap.
In the Hunters Club, the hunters are occupied with trying to exceed the previous time limit for sitting in the air. When they get to the 1000 count, they seem to have achieved what they wanted. While this is going on, Evy asks Ray if he wants to buy some whey protein after school. But Ray declines, stating that he has plans after school. His plans, however, involve his gardening club, where he has been given the spare key to the club room to go there, since the other members will not be going there. He is being directed by one of the older members to be there, as she thinks he would probably arrive earlier than Rebecca after being given the key. He thanks her for this, but she feels uncomfortable that he has to thank her and leaves immediately. Shortly after, Ray heads to the club room. When he opens the door, he walks in and goes straight to the inner room. Surprisingly, he sees a girl in her underwear. When she turns around, he realizes that she is Rebecca. Seeing how awkward a situation he finds himself in, he excuses himself from the room. Just then, the embarrassed Rebecca screams loudly. When she finally gets dressed and leaves the room, she offers Ray some tea. Apparently, the tea was brewed with herbs gotten from the garden club. On the other hand, he is uninterested in the tea and immediately apologizes to her for the earlier incident. Hearing him apologize, Rebecca informs him that there is no need to. Instead, she clarifies the issue regarding the kind of underwear he saw her putting on, stating that she had just finished from P class and was changing. Furthermore, she states that she usually wears more mature underwear, and he finds this to be great. With this said, she urges him to forget about the entire incident, and he obliges. Later on, while taking a look at the bookshelf in the club room, Ray asks what the books are for, especially since they look ancient, to quench his curiosity. Rebecca informs him that it is a record of generations of the gardening club's data. Furthermore, she states that it contains information that cannot be found in other books. While Ray finds this to be amazing, he wonders if she has written anything of her own in the books. In response, she reveals how she intentionally records flowers that change by sorcery. Hearing this, Ray finds it weird, to make him understand. She takes him to the garden and shows him a plant that can use sorcery. Seeing this, he's surprised that plants have such abilities, and she makes him know that this is common in carnivorous plants, since sorcery is seen in their developmental process. Just then, she informs him about an entry regarding the marguerite daisy he likes, and he is eager to see it. At that moment, Ray notices the change in Rebecca's facial expression, and when he asks her what's wrong, she states how happy she is to be able to educate him. Hearing her say this makes him wonder if there aren't other members for her to educate, but she states that everyone keeps their distance from her since she comes from the top 3 families. While she thinks everyone is nice, they are reluctant when she tries to teach them, and this, she says, makes it hard for her to open up to them. However, she feels relaxed since Ray doesn't do that. In reply, Ray assures her that he will not hesitate to ask her for guidance. Then he asks her to lend him the book in order to study it, and she's excited to lend it to him. Later that day, Ray and Rebecca continue to spend the time together, and she asks him if he is one of the committee members at the Sorcery Swordsman tournament. In response, he states that he is and reveals his plan to cheer Amelia on at the mention of her name. Rebecca blurts out how Amelia is the favorite to win the amateur group of the tournament since she is the daughter of the Rose family. Meanwhile, Ray seeks to know about the third member of the top 3 families since it hasn't seen her at the academy. Apparently, the third family is the Aldrin family, who have always studied at the Arnold Academy. However, Rebecca believes the daughter of the family would be a good rival to Amelia. The next day, the students gather around to watch Amelia compete in the preliminary contest, which is held in order to choose representatives. During the contest, Amelia wins over her opponents easily. Just then, and in a shocking turn of events, she seeks the teacher's permission to fight Ray. Next, hearing her say this, some of the students get offended that she would pick Ray. However, they are optimistic that they will be crushed easily. At first, the teacher is reluctant about picking Ray since he is a member of the executive committee, but the determined Amelia decides to challenge Ray directly, since he has been challenged directly. Ray accepts. When the duel begins, Ray allows Amelia to thrive in the offensive while he defends her strikes. Analyzing her strikes, He thinks they aren't powerful strikes, but they definitely are fast. With how well Ray defended her attacks, Amelia commends him for being good at swordsmanship and real-life battles, especially since he isn't so good at sorcery. If only they knew the kind of power he possessed. She states that this is the reason why she had wanted to fight him. Hearing her commend his skills, Ray is happy to hear her say it, and decides to have a proper duel with her. However, he continues to stick with being defensive while Amelia tries her best to land at least one blow on him. As they fight, Ray finds the duel to be familiar. Thinking about it, he is reminded of his early days learning swordsmanship from his master. At the time, the master tried to strike him so hard, and remembering this causes him to tap into his sorcery. In a split second, he shoves off Amelia's sword and is about to land a heavy strike on her when he stops himself, losing the grip of his sword. The fact that he dropped his sword led the teacher to declare Amelia the winner of the duel. Even though Ray congratulates her on the victory, she wishes to know what his last strike was about. This fuels her curiosity, making her wonder one more time who he really is. At this moment, Allium stares at Ray angrily, awaiting the perfect moment to pour it all out. Later that day, Ray spends some time with his friends and Elisa feels bad about not watching the fight. Meanwhile, Evy, who was still shocked at how good Ray's swordsmanship is, commenced him seeking to know where he had learned it from. In response, Ray states that he has a master who taught him basically everything about life. However, he states how her education is so strict that life in the academy is paradise. On the other hand, the students in the academy are thrilled with how well Ray had fought Amelia, especially since he is an ordinary. With this, they aren't surprised about the fact that Amelia's team had won the competition earlier. Shortly after, Allium walks up to Ray and requests a duel with him. Just then, his friends make fun of Ray, trying to convince him not to chicken out or be scared. With how annoying they sounded, Ray is forced to accept the challenge while the two stand face to face against each other. Elisa is worried. Evy, however, assures her that he will help if anything happens. Meanwhile, one of them notices a barrier surrounding the location. However, she imagines it is there to prevent sound from leaving the place. On the other hand, when Ray asks about the rules of the duel, Allium offers him a real sword, stating that sorcery would also be used in the duel. Seeing this, the spectators are worried. But Allium goes ahead and to inform Ray about the fact that whoever surrenders first loses. Without wasting much time or giving a warning, Allium charges angrily at Ray. Fortunately, Ray dodges his attacks and goes to pick up his sword. While the fight is going on, someone in a cloaky settled on the branch of a tree, watching them. Meanwhile, Allium is pissed at the fact that Ray doesn't attack but only defends himself. Due to this, he orders Ray to come to him. Seeing Allium in his state makes Ray bothered. Allium, on the other hand, is so obsessed with winning that he opts to use boss sorcery and swordsmanship in the duel. He is determined not to lose to Ray, who heck knows to be only physically better still. Drowning in his anger, he remembers the condition of his family. Apparently, although his family is a noble family, they are only the lower tier among noble families, making it hard for them to be regarded as a respected family. This had caused his father to face many difficulties, and this had made Allium so determined to make his family into an honorable and respected family. To achieve that, he intends to become the highest level sorcerer and kill Ray in the process. With anger inside him, Allium resorts to throwing magic rolls of fire at Ray. Fortunately, he dodges it, but ends up cutting through one of them. This gets everyone surprised, but gets Allium very angry. This time, he continues to throw large bowls of fire at Ray, but the latter successfully dodges them all. The fact that he is unable to hit Ray gets Allium frustrated watching him cut through magic so easily. Allium believes he's an illegitimate child of a noble family. Hearing him say this, Ray reiterates that he is an ordinary but one like many others who are opportune to master sorcery as well. He makes Allium know that lineage doesn't serve as a standard to determine whether a sorcerer is good or not. This makes Allium angrier than he already is, and he strikes Ray with a very powerful sorcery called the Blazing Dragon. While this is expected to be fatal, Ray cuts through it as easily as he did the others. This served as the icing on the cake for everyone who witnessed the duel. As they got to realize just how strong Ray is, this time, Amelia demands that he tells them who he really is. Just when he's about to do so, a magical presence floods the area, causing all the other students to fall to the ground helplessly. At that moment, Ray turns around to see being in a cloak walking towards him. While approaching Ray, he states that every one of them will be sacrifices and urges them not to be sad, since they will be contributing to the development of sorcery. In a shocking turn of events, when the being reveals itself, Ray sees that it is his teacher, Miss Gray. Before going up against Miss Gray, Ray promises to tell Amelia all she needs to know about him once he's done with the current situation. Seeing his teacher makes all Ray's thoughts make sense. He reveals to Miss Gray that she is eugenics, whose objective is the student's engram. He reminds her of the fact that she had informed him about this earlier when she talked about the expelled students. Hearing him say and remember, this impresses her, as she now is even more interested in his engram. At this point, Ray realizes that she has wanted to kidnap students using the training in the Kafka forest and had been the one who controlled the monsters that weren't supposed to have been there in the first place. Once again, Miss Gray is impressed with how right his thoughts are. She further reveals that she has conducted the training every year to serve as a worthy excuse to make students go missing. This granted her the chance to play the pitiful teacher, with no one ever suspecting her to be the culprit with all she says. Ray assumes she had also led Allium to die had he did, but she denies that, stating that they lacked the capabilities to do anything. However, she commends Allium for buying her to Mito create the powerful barrier around them. Amidst mixed emotions, Ray threatens Miss Gray to prepare to lose an arm or two. Just then, the two go up against each other, with Miss Gray releasing a powerful fire snake on Ray, who runs around defensively. Noticing that the snakes are unable to get to Ray, Miss Gray directs them to attack the other students. This makes Ray tap into his power as the Iceblade Sorcerer. With this power, he blocks Ms. Gray's attacks and makes her beg for her life. When she tries to play smart by attacking him, once again he threatens her with an ice blade. Just then, she injects herself with the Dark Trod system, making her transform into a vicious and terrifying monster.